miracles. I believe in miracles with all of my heart. But I have a reason for believing in miracles. The best reason in the whole world. It's because I believe in God. At graduation time this year, in a Catholic school in Southern California, when those who were graduating from the 8th grade walked up to receive their diplomas in cap and gown, a young girl, 14 years of age, walked, her shoulders squared, with 2 good legs, and reached out and received a diploma. I could not have been more thrilled had that young girl been my own daughter. She was the daughter of the most grateful parents in the whole world, the daughter of Mexican Americans. The father is a waiter in one of the finest restaurants in what we call in Southern California the Valley. And our director, producer, Dick Ross, with his wife, usually eat at this restaurant. Oh, just very often, and sometimes I think for just one reason, to see the father of young Lisa and see his black eyes shine and sparkle, as with a clasp of the hand, he somehow relives everything that God did for his beautiful young daughter, whose leg was to have been amputated. In my new book, Nothing is Impossible with God, you'll find the entire story in chapter 3, Walking in the Shadows. My guest today is 14-year-old Lisa and her precious mother, Isabel. You'll love it. Well, Lisa, Jesus is mighty real to you.
Yes, he is, Miss Kuhlman. Without him, I only would have one leg.
I guess when you face it and face reality, it's just exactly like that. When words come out like that, for many people, those are just words. But you're sitting here knowing that 2 years ago, when you were just 12 years of age, there was a possibility that one of your legs was to have been amputated. Without Jesus, perhaps you would have just one leg today. 14 years of age now, when you walked up and received your diploma. There you were in cap and gown, walking with your schoolmates. You were proud, weren't you?
I sure was.
And I was so happy for you. Well, Isabel, have you relived this over and over and over again? As the mother of Lisa, nobody knows what it's like when the doctor tells you that there's a possibility that there'd have to be an amputation of your beautiful daughter's leg.
No one knows until you live through it. No one knows. I'm so happy to be here today and to be able to tell my story to everybody that I can tell, that there's always hope. There's always hope. And Jesus can do everything. As your book says, nothing is impossible with God. And it really isn't. In our case, nothing was impossible because we saw black and all of a sudden everything is just, it was a miracle. And we do believe in miracles. Very much.
I know, it all seems so simple. I mean, when I stand and say week after week, I believe in miracles. It seems so simple. And when I was thinking of a title for my new book, it's all so simple when we say nothing is impossible with God. So simple that it's profound. And you people are Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholics.
Mexican American. And anyone who wants to know the story can see your husband because he works where?
He works in Casa Vega restaurant in Sherman Oaks. And it's a Mexican place. And he works there. And
well, Dick Ross says that he's just about the greatest thing. Do you know you have about the most handsome daddy that any teenage girl could possibly have? And sometimes I think that Dick Ross and his wife just go there just to see your husband. You know? The food is marvelous. But then when I come out to televise and Dick says, oh, you know, that healing just thrills me so. And yet it was so dark. And what was it? It was during those dark days. What did the doctor say was wrong with Lisa?
She had cancer of the bone.
Just 2 years ago.
2 years ago, she had a very malignant tumor. And if they had amputated, they might not have gotten everything. So, but they told us, take the treatments, but we can prolong her life. We can promise nothing more, but we could prolong her life if you go through these treatments.
Cancer of the bone.
Cancer of the bone. In other words, she had no hip bone left. Her hip bone was like, they told when they opened her up, it was just like Swiss cheese. It had holes in it. There was no bone there anymore, her hip bone. So, of course, she couldn't step or walk or anything.
So it could not have been a wrong diagnosis?
No, 18 doctors can't be wrong. And they sent 3 different bone specimens to 3 different hospitals, you know, Rochester, Minnesota, different places like that. And they all came back with the same.
So for the skeptic who might say it was just a matter of a wrong diagnosis.
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not.
It was nothing that was psychosomatic, right?
No, it was nothing like that.
It
She was a
wasn't
very sick little girl. She's very sick. You know, it was just
And you were a heartbroken mother, and her daddy was a heartbroken father. And where did they think you would have to amputate? Because the cancer had gone up.
Yes, they would have had to amputate all through her hip, the complete leg. There was all the way up to the top. No knees, no, all the way up to the top.
No knees, nothing.
No, and still they say they might not have gotten it. It was too advanced.
The
If her
cancer was
bones had
up-
turned to like butter and cheese, it could have gone in through her system before, so they didn't want to go through that amputation.
And the bone had gotten so it was
But just like butter, like cream cheese. There was no bone there.
And remember, that was 2 years ago. So in desperation, and yet you had never seen a miracle.
I had never seen a miracle. Never.
Lisa, you had never seen a miracle.
Never.
You'd never even talked about miracles.
No, never.
When did you begin thinking in terms of a miracle?
We didn't think in terms of a miracle. We thought, well, this is what the doctors say. This is what we'll do, you know. But we don't want any treatments, so what we'll do is we're going to go and take her on trips and let her enjoy the life she has. Maybe 6 months, maybe 4 months, whatever God gave her. And then we had this neighbor there that lived at the same place as we did, and he came up one day and how is Lisa? And I said, well, she's very sick. He said, yes, I know, but she's going to get well. And I said, you don't understand, Bill. I said, she's very, very sick. He said, yes, but have you ever heard of Kathryn Kuhlman? And I said, well, I've tuned in a couple of times, but I don't know. And he said, well, I'm going to take her down. This Sunday she's coming to the Shrine Auditorium, and we're taking her down. And I said, oh, Bill, I said, she doesn't know she has cancer. We had never let her know. And how are we going to expose her to all of this, And then all of a sudden, what if it doesn't work? I was you want somebody skeptical, it was me. I was the most skeptical person. So my husband said, well, what can you lose? You lose one Sunday? Is that too much to ask? So, make a long story short, we did go down. And we took her in the wheelchair.
Lisa in a wheelchair?
Lisa in a wheelchair, and I sat by her.
And your husband
And my husband didn't go. Yes, he had to go to work. And Bill and his fiancée sat in another part of the auditorium. And in Almost immediately after you came on the stage, you said, there is a cancer to my left in the wheelchair area. Will you stand up and take your healing? And of course, Lisa didn't know she had cancer, and I wasn't going to be the one to tell her. So you kept on, you went to somebody else, and you kept back, and there is a cancer in my, and so she said, Mama, I feel hot. My stomach feels hot. And I thought it because she was hungry. And this was her first outing since the hospital. This was her first outing. I thought, oh, now we did it. Now we really did it, you know. We brought her out here among all these people, and she's going to really get sick on me. So then she wanted to go up.
What were you thinking all that time?
I thought I was hungry.
And were you watching everybody else being healed?
I was watching it. I didn't know what was going on, really.
I guess that's true. You were a very sick girl. This was a sick girl facing an amputation.
But she was faith itself because she knew she would be healed. She never was surprised that she was healed. She took it for granted.
Lisa, honey, were you never surprised that you'd been healed?
No. 'Cause I knew I was sick, but I didn't think I was that sick, you know. So I just took it for granted.
That sometime Jesus would heal you?
Yeah.
Was she that simple in her faith?
Yes, very simple. It was just beautiful.
And while you were thinking about her healing, she turned to you and said,
she said, I
I'm
have
hot.
a warm feeling in my stomach. And I thought, oh my goodness, she's probably hungry or sick or, you know, I didn't know. And then she said, maybe, can I go up on the stage? And I said, well, Lisa, you can't walk. And then the ushers came by and they said, may we help you here?
why did you want to go up on stage?
Because I just wanted to go up there. I just felt I had to go up there. And so the usher said, may I help you? And I got up to get some Cracker Jacks, and I felt myself standing up. So I started
She
walking.
found she was standing up. And then did you begin to walk?
Then I began to walk up and down the aisle, and I said, I can walk. And Mom just looked at me like I was going to fall. So then I asked if I can go up on stage because I felt...
Was there any sense of falling?
No, there's no sense of falling at all.
And you were scared to death.
Because the doctor had told me to put no pressure on her hip bone. She didn't have any hip bone left. And I thought, what is she doing?
Was there no hip bone
No,
left?
there was no hip bone left. She came in a
The
wheelchair. She was
cancer had...
eaten it out, really. The bone was no
And you
longer there.
brought her in a wheelchair, and then suddenly you saw her standing up, and then she began to walk up and down the aisle. Did you think you were going to faint? What did you think?
I didn't want to think. I couldn't think. I told Bill, you take her up there. I'm not going to be able to talk if I go up to the stage, so you go ahead, take her up there
What
and
were you
talk.
thinking all of this time?
Well, I just said, I want to go up there. I felt that something was pushing me, and I just had to go up there. So I went
And
up
you were
there.
only 12 years old then. Did you keep right on walking?
I kept on walking.
And your mother
She
standing
just
there in
looked
this
at me.
state of shock. Did you start running? What happened?
So then we went upstairs, and they said, "You sure you can walk?" And I'm positive. So then the others took me up to the front of the line, and then you started talking to us, and you made me run across the stage, and I ran.
And of course, I was so stupid. I didn't know her condition.
No, of course not.
I didn't know that there wasn't a hip bone there. I knew nothing about it. You people were perfect strangers to me. And so when I said, run, honey, run.
She ran across the stage like from here to there.
A girl had been brought in a wheelchair with no hip bone. And 18 doctors know all about this.
Oh, yes. All the records are in the Children's Hospital. Anybody that wants to check, it's under her name in the Children's Hospital. And
There was no hip bone. There was nothing. It was impossible. And there was no sense of fear when I told you to run.
No sense of fear. I knew I could do it. I'm just determined to run when I want to run, and I ran.
Honey, was there any sensation with all of this? Was there any feeling in your leg?
No feeling. I just felt normal.
What did you do next?
I still didn't know what to say, or, you know, I was so
I
skeptical and
guess
so
that's the
afraid of
truth.
believing. So afraid of believing, because after you have one of these things that happen to you, and then you say, oh, I believe, and all of a sudden the doctors say, no, it's not true. And I waited till we went back to the doctors.
And you didn't want her hurt.
And I didn't want her hurt, to think that she
Uh-huh.
was fine, and all of a sudden get sick again.
Yeah, you didn't want her. I understand that,
So-
Isabel. You didn't want her to think that she was healed, and maybe she wasn't.
Have another
healed.
letdown. She had been from hospital to hospital to hospital, and she had been through so much. And I thought, I can't put her through any more, you know.
You wanted to believe, and yet your emotions were so mixed. and you had never seen a miracle.
No.
And this is the only daughter you had. You'd given up hope, and you wanted to give her the best before she would go. Nobody knows what it's like. Nobody knows the emotions.
You have to live through it, too.
Did you fold up her wheelchair?
We left it there, and Bill brought it home and put it in his garage.
Did you really? Did you leave the wheelchair at the shrine?
Yes, and he took it and put it in his car and put it in the garage. I don't know what happened to the old wheelchair.
How'd you go home?
She walked home, and we got in the car and went home. We stopped at a restaurant and ate and came on home.
Honey, what did your father say when he saw you?
Well, he was asleep when I got home. And so I went outside, and he got up to start getting ready for work, and he looked at me, and I was riding a bike around the pool.
You were what, honey?
Riding a bike around our pool.
You mean she went home and got on a bicycle?
And he just looked down there, and he asked my mom what was happening, and she told him.
And your husband's a very soft-spoken gentleman.
Yes, he's very kind. He believes. He
What
really
did he
believes.
say? Did he come?
He believed immediately. He said,
Did
there
he?
it is. He said, that's a miracle. He said, look at that. I still didn't want to say too much.
You were the one who
I was
held on.
the skeptical disbeliever. Yes, I was. I really was.
And you didn't believe
Until we went back to the hospital. And then the doctor phoned us. And I said, why didn't you phone earlier? We've been waiting for the phone call, because they took x-rays, they took blood tests and everything. And he said, well, I just didn't want to call you. We're confused here at the hospital. And I thought, oh, no, now what has happened? And he said, we've had 7 or 8 doctors here in a consultation, and do you know that Lisa's tumor is reduced, and there is evidence of healing? Those were the 3 words he said. And, well, then I began believing. You know, like St. Thomas, you put your hand in his wound. That's exactly what I did.
And that was the
Then
first
I
time,
began
even
believing.
after everything that you had seen, it was the very first time that...
That I felt in my being that now we're on to recovery. God
How
has
many
healed
doctors
her.
worked on it then, after she was
Well,
healed?
then they got very interested, and then every time we went, there were 4 or 5 doctors that looked at her and watched her and tested her, and they asked her if there was pain, and they moved her, and they took x-rays of her chest and every place, you know.
They gave
then
her
they really
every
got
test
interested.
possible.
Every test there is. And the last time we went was 3 months ago. We're still going every 3 months to
Good.
the Children's Hospital. And we went 3 months ago, and they say she is completely cured. There is no tumor left or anything.
You mean there isn't one
Nothing.
trace of
It's
it?
gone now completely.
What do they say about the bone now in the leg?
It's completely healed. She has a complete bone right there in her heel.
A perfect bone.
Perfect bone. It's mended. If you've heard of a bone mending by itself.
Stand up, honey. Which leg was it? The cancer?
This one.
Do you sometimes almost forget?
Yep, I almost forget sometimes.
I guess that's right. Honey, I look at you. Had there never been another miracle, if I had lived and died and there had never been a miracle, except the miracle that God performed for you, I would still be the most grateful person in the world for his mercy. There's something about you, honey, that's just kind of extra special, and I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why, but there's just something extra special. There you sit, 2 good legs. Lisa, never go any place where you can't take Jesus. Never. Never let those 2 legs ever take you where you can't take Jesus with you. Because if it had not been for his mercy, if it had not been for his great compassion and love, you might be a teenage girl, an amputee. That's the reason I entitled my new book, Nothing is Impossible with God. That's the reason I have put it in print for every mother, for every father to read. Because there comes a time in the life of every parent when they have to throw themselves on the mercy of the Lord Jesus Christ. When they have to believe God for his supernatural power. And when you do, he'll never let you down. I promise you that. What more can we say? What more is there to be said? What more? The records are there. 18 doctors will give proof of that which has been said and that which God has done. What more can one say? It's so simple, most folk miss it. Nothing is impossible with God. Therefore, don't be defeated. There was an hour when this precious mother might have gone down in defeat, or the young girl might have gone down in defeat. There is no defeat in Christ Jesus. Hear the cry in that falling tear and answer prayer. Amen.